High schooler Suzufumi finds his next-door neighbor, Yuzuki, starving outside her door. He discovers she is actually a national top idol. She endures extreme diets to maintain her perfect image. Suzufumi cooks her a high-calorie, delicious meal. The food instantly breaks her diet. Now, she cannot stop begging for his guilty pleasure, cooking, starting a delicious secret relationship. Mamori is almost a high school junior. Moving into residence or Akita, he sets down a box and thanks someone nearby for helping out. Once that's done, he starts going door to door to greet his new neighbors. Next up is room 810. He rings the bell. A woman's voice answers from behind the intercom. Mamori explains he just moved in next door. A pause, then the door clicks open, and something flutters out dramatically as it swings wide. Standing in the doorway is a girl who looks completely surprised to see him. The girl laughs it off and admits she thought it might be a door-to-door salesman. She quickly introduces herself. Suzufumi from Unit 809 moved in with her parents. Mamori bows and gives his own name. Sasaki Yuzuki from Unit 810, though he stumbles and goes way too fast. Suzufumi greets Yuzuki warmly. Yuzuki awkwardly tries to respond but trips over the building name. Suzufumi hands over a gift bag and asks Yuzuki to share it with his family. Yuzuki thanks her and guesses it might be sweets. It's pork. Suzufumi launches into a full explanation. Her parents run a pub currently featuring platinum pork, a crossbred variety known for its tenderness and rich flavor, great for grilling, hot pot, or stew. Yuzuki stands there listening, then silently panics, realizing he just rambled about meat to someone he barely met. He mentally apologizes to his parents and figures this might already hurt the neighbor relationship. Suzufumi snaps back to reality and apologizes. Yuzuki, still stunned, mutters she might even have a fan club. Suzufumi wraps up, says she'll head back inside, and the door closes. Yuzuki stands in the hall thinking his neighbor was really cute, and wonders where he's seen her before. He tells himself the mission is done and heads out for groceries. A crash. Yuzuki rushes back to find Suzufumi collapsed in the hallway outside her door. Yuzuki calls out to her. Suzufumi barely responds, muttering something. Yuzuki crouches down and calls her name again urgently. Suzufumi mumbles that she's starving. Her stomach growls loudly. Yuzuki brings her inside. While Suzufumi eats something small and winces with embarrassment, Yuzuki learns she's living alone. Her father transferred back to their hometown for work and left her behind. Suzufumi pulls out her phone and shows Yuzuki a photo. It's her, in idol gear. Yuzuki is stunned. Suzufumi explains she stayed behind for work. Yuzuki says that's why she seemed so put together earlier. Suzufumi laughs and admits she's not that popular yet. Yuzuki just stares, quietly processing it. Yuzuki asks if Suzufumi collapsed because she was skipping meals to maintain her figure. Suzufumi confirms it. Even a little weight means resizing all her costumes. The two agree to drop the formalities and use first names. Yuzuki then notices how thin Suzufumi looks and suggests a lighter pork dish. Suzufumi shouts that pork belly is too fatty and high in calories. Suzufumi insists on watching her figure every day. Yuzuki points out that the fat in quality pork is nutritious and basal metabolism burns some of it off. Suzufumi says she's already full from a tofu bar. Yuzuki threatens to take the pork belly back. Suzufumi freezes. Yuzuki grips the meat and mutters that Suzufumi is making him feel like the villain. Suzufumi yells that she won't eat any. She's an idol. Yuzuki announces he's making it anyway. Yuzuki tells himself he gets where Suzufumi is coming from, but he doesn't want to watch someone collapse again. He's going to change her mind. Yuzuki cooks, meat and onions into the pan, steam rising, rice fluffing up in the pot. Suzufumi watches from the side, and Yuzuki keeps moving without a word. The pork bowl is done. Yuzuki sets it in front of Suzufumi and tells her to eat it while it's hot. Suzufumi starts to refuse again, but her stomach rumbles and cuts her off mid-sentence. Yuzuki describes the bowl out loud. Brand name meat, fragrant char, plenty for seconds, even mayo and chili paste to change the flavor. Suzufumi keeps telling herself to hold it together. Then Yuzuki pulls out his trump card. Suzufumi takes one bite. The egg coating softens the pork and makes it go down easily with the rice. The garlic and ginger keep pulling her back for more. Suzufumi can't stop. Suzufumi eats with full focus, the scallions, the sesame oil, the nori between the rice. Every part of the bowl works together. Yuzuki watches her in silence, completely caught off guard by how into it Suzufumi is. Suzufumi adds the chili paste and marvels out loud. The spice hits, then the mellow flavors come back even stronger. Suzufumi can't believe a rice bowl could be this good. Suzufumi adds the pickled daikon and finishes the whole bowl. Yuzuki stares at the empty dish and wonders if he just created a monster. Suzufumi looks completely satisfied, practically glowing. Yuzuki passes Suzufumi a second bowl. Suzufumi's eyes go wide, another helping. Yuzuki tells her to go ahead. Suzufumi puts her hands together and digs back in, muttering that everything is amazing. Suzufumi tells Yuzuki that from the very first bite, Suzufumi could tell Yuzuki genuinely wanted to make Suzufumi happy, the care in each piece, the bite-sized cuts. That's why Suzufumi is an idol too, to bring joy to others. Yuzuki stares back, completely lost, and asks why the food led to that conclusion. Yuzuki goes quiet. Suzufumi keeps saying it. Mamori-kun is amazing. Then Suzufumi goes soft and blissful, eyes closed, muttering about how good everything feels. Suzufumi admits she really ate it and blames Yuzuki. Yuzuki tells Suzufumi to relax. Even idols eat normally. Suzufumi says her goal is to become the top idol, so putting in the same effort as everyone else isn't enough. When Suzufumi was little, every day felt dull, so Suzufumi watched idol DVDs just to pass the time. Those idols were always performing perfectly, and Suzufumi wanted to be on that same stage, so Suzufumi became one. Suzufumi explains that idols in Japanese are called that because they're objects of faith and worship, an embodiment of an ideal. That's why Suzufumi can't let food get the better of Suzufumi. Yuzuki says Suzufumi still can't skip meals. Suzufumi fires back that Yuzuki just doesn't get it. Yuzuki asks what makes Suzufumi say that, and Suzufumi tilts her head. Yuzuki explains, Yuzuki's dad worked non-stop at a terrible company, barely ate, then collapsed at the door and ended up in the emergency room. Yuzuki thought Yuzuki's dad was going to die. Yuzuki tells Suzufumi that Yuzuki doesn't want to make Suzufumi fat. Yuzuki just wants Suzufumi to eat properly while still being an idol. Suzufumi says Yuzuki gets it, but Suzufumi would rather spend that time practicing singing and dancing than eating. Suzufumi snaps and tells Yuzuki to back off. Yuzuki points out Suzufumi just finished 2 full bowls. Suzufumi turns red. Yuzuki says fine. If Suzufumi won't let Yuzuki in, Yuzuki will leave meals at the door morning, noon, and night, and even deliver them if there's no space. Yuzuki is going all in. Suzufumi is shocked. It doesn't seem like Yuzuki is joking. Yuzuki adds that back in middle school, Yuzuki was voted most likely to become a nagging parent. Suzufumi announces the plan. Suzufumi will turn Yuzuki into one of Suzufumi's fans. Yuzuki asks what. Suzufumi grabs Yuzuki's hands and squeezes, then explains that the word fan comes from fanatic, an enthusiast. Suzufumi laughs and says right now Yuzuki is just being nosy, but Yuzuki can support Suzufumi however Yuzuki likes. Suzufumi says Yuzuki is a neighbor, not a fan, so it's not an equal trade yet. Mamori-kun pushes back, saying if Mamori-kun forces things, Mamori-kun would be a stalker, not a fan. Suzufumi smirks and asks if Yuzuki will accept the deal. Mamori-kun jolts. Suzufumi proposes. Mamori-kun cooks dinner for Yuzuki every night. Mamori-kun declares the plan. Make Yuzuki fall for Mamori-kun's cooking to the point that Yuzuki can't live without it. Yuzuki fires back that no matter how good the pork bowl was, Yuzuki won't give in again. Suzufumi narrows her eyes and confirms. Mamori-kun is fully set on competing with Suzufumi. Mamori-kun asks if Suzufumi can hold to that. Suzufumi panics and blurts that Yuzuki is welcome to try anytime, then catches herself. It came out half-hearted. Mamori-kun nods and says that's good enough. Both face each other head-on. Mamori-kun wonders how long Suzufumi can stay calm around a popular idol. Suzufumi tells Mamori-kun to bring it. Both make their declarations at once. Suzufumi will turn Mamori-kun into a fan, and Mamori-kun will make Yuzuki fall for the cooking. The chapter ends with the building in view and a note, an idol and a high school boy, and so begins their battle, putting heart and stomach to the test. A few years later, someone unlocks a door and steps inside. Mamori-kun welcomes Suzufumi back and wishes Suzufumi a happy 20th birthday. They started dating once both entered college. Suzufumi wraps both arms around Mamori-kun and asks where the birthday kiss is. Mamori-kun freezes. Suzufumi asks if Mamori-kun doesn't want to. Mamori-kun says that's not it, but asks Suzufumi to do it instead. Suzufumi taps a finger to her lips. Suzufumi is introduced as Arisu Yuzuki, the ace of the 5-member idol group Spotlights. Born in Niigata, blood type A, signature color yellow, favorite foods crepes and galettes. Mamori-kun is still half asleep. Suzufumi shakes Mamori-kun and tells Mamori-kun to wake up. They have a date today. Mamori-kun rolls over and mutters about going back to sleep. Suzufumi threatens a kiss if Mamori-kun doesn't get up. Mamori-kun refuses anyway. In a flashback to the previous night, Mamori-kun and Suzufumi exchange contact info while Mamori-kun cooks. Suzufumi adds her alarm straight to Mamori-kun's phone. Mamori-kun figures Suzufumi is getting serious about the deal if she went as far as setting an alarm. The intercom rings. Mamori-kun heads over, pumped, planning to bring something special. Suzufumi's voice answers. Suzufumi opens the door fresh from the bath. Surprised Mamori-kun actually came back. Mamori-kun freezes up. Suzufumi reminds Mamori-kun she said she didn't need anything. Mamori-kun holds up a food delivery box and says this time is different. Mamori-kun even brought an okamochi to keep it warm. Suzufumi explains the morning and evening routine. 3 sets of 50 squats, and 30 ab rollers. Suzufumi finishes with a protein shake and calls it delicious. Mamori-kun asks if that's really enough. Suzufumi says the protein shake covers the nutrition, so last night's pork bowl doesn't count. Mamori-kun smirks and says Suzufumi might change her mind after seeing what's inside. Mamori-kun reveals a Milanese-style doria, white sauce made from scratch over a beef and rice base. Suzufumi groans at the sight. Mamori-kun asks if Suzufumi doesn't want to try it. Suzufumi yells no and tells Mamori-kun to get out of the kitchen. Mamori-kun is already heading in. Yuzuki watches from the kitchen as cheese gets scattered over the dish. The oven dings and Yuzuki pulls out the doria, steaming and bubbling. Yuzuki stretches a spoonful to show off the melted cheese pull. Yuzuki tells Suzufumi to stop trying to resist and just look at it. Suzufumi insists Suzufumi doesn't need it, but Mamori-kun points out the cheese will harden the longer Suzufumi waits. Mamori-kun says fresh from the oven is when doria is best. Suzufumi grits Suzufumi's teeth. Mamori-kun calls it out. Suzufumi is clearly about to cool it down to stall. In short, Yuzuki wants to eat it. Mamori-kun tells Suzufumi not to hold back. Eating well is self-care, just like stretching after a bath. Suzufumi hesitates. Mamori-kun adds that the extra cheese makes it even better. Suzufumi goes silent. Then a small heart appears in Suzufumi's thought bubble. Suzufumi gives in and takes a bite. Suzufumi's expression melts immediately, panting softly, completely overtaken by how good it tastes. Suzufumi is overwhelmed. The white sauce, tomatoes, and beef all hit at once, with the saffron rice underneath and melted cheese tying everything together. The powdered cheese mellows the bold meat sauce perfectly. Suzufumi mutters it's like a full performance happening in one bite. Suzufumi keeps going. The chili pepper sauce kicks up the flavor, and the uneven cheese makes every bite different. Mamori-kun notices Yuzuki gets very chatty when eating, and wonders if it's because Yuzuki normally suppresses everything. Suzufumi says the saffron rice makes the whole thing feel like a special occasion. Mamori-kun realizes the garnish was forgotten, too busy watching Suzufumi eat. Mamori-kun offers popcorn shrimp as a side. Suzufumi immediately says yes. Suzufumi digs in happily, noting how light and easy it goes down, and how the comeback sauce makes it impossible to stop. Mamori-kun watches from the side while Yuzuki eats. Yuzuki notices and tells Mamori-kun to stop staring. Mamori-kun thinks an unbeatable idol shouldn't care this much about one person's gaze. Unless Suzufumi can't stay in idol mode in front of Mamori-kun. Suzufumi shouts that's not true. Mamori-kun grins and says to prove it. Yuzuki snaps into idol mode, holding up the bowl and announcing a Milanese doria segment. Mamori-kun is alarmed. Yuzuki takes a bite, hums contentedly, then goes silent and distracted, muttering that the rice keeps pulling focus. Yuzuki finishes the whole bowl and thanks Mamori-kun for the meal. Suzufumi catches herself and tells Mamori-kun that Mamori-kun won't be let in tomorrow. Mamori-kun points out Suzufumi said Mamori-kun was always welcome. Suzufumi protests. Arisu Yuzuki is supposed to be perfect at all times. Mamori-kun says relaxing matters too, since there's no stage or cameras here. Suzufumi says that's exactly why. Yuzuki explains. Everyone around Yuzuki works hard, but people can't stay motivated forever. Idols exist to support people through those hard moments. Yuzuki wants to be the cheer squad for everyone's hearts. Mamori-kun listens quietly. Yuzuki adds that Mamori-kun being worried is appreciated, but Yuzuki isn't pushing too hard. Yuzuki just wants to stay perfect, which is why Yuzuki can't keep losing to Mamori-kun. Yuzuki suddenly grabs Mamori-kun's hand and squeezes tight. Mamori-kun jolts. Yuzuki thanks Mamori-kun for today, full idol mode switched on. Mamori-kun panics internally. Mamori-kun is not a fan of Arisu Yuzuki, but this surprise attack is bad. Yuzuki holds Mamori-kun's hand and says Mamori-kun will be let go once Mamori-kun becomes a fan. Yuzuki squeezes tighter. Mamori-kun thinks something as troublesome as cooking for a neighbor's meals. Mamori-kun starts to protest. Mamori-kun grabs a cold glass and passes it to Yuzuki. Yuzuki reacts to the cold. Mamori-kun announces the plan. Homemade lemonade, a carrot tart for dessert, and Mamori-kun will be Yuzuki's cheerleader. Yuzuki goes quiet. Yuzuki sips the lemonade and tells Mamori-kun to stop being so stubborn. The next morning, the doorbell rings at 8 a.m. Mamori-kun opens the door, still half asleep. Yuzuki teases Mamori-kun for sleeping in during spring break. Mamori-kun says today is already late for Yuzuki's schedule. They walk out together. Yuzuki pulls out a photo book and hands it to Mamori-kun. Yuzuki explains it's the first photo book. Came out today, and Yuzuki is giving Mamori-kun a copy. The cover shows Arisu Yuzuki. Yuzuki says pre-orders already caused an overprint, so bookstores probably sold out. Yuzuki glances at the time and says it's almost time to leave. Yuzuki leans close and tells Mamori-kun to enjoy it plenty. Mamori-kun freezes. Mamori-kun wonders if Yuzuki meant spring break or something else entirely. Title splash for Chapter 3, Caligula Effect. The chapter logo and credits appear. Mamori-kun is shown at home, glancing repeatedly at the photo book sitting on the table, telling Mamori-kun's own self not to bother looking at it. The photo book sits on the floor. Mamori-kun tells Mamori-kun's self that there's no reason to look. Mamori-kun is not Yuzuki's fan. But the urge hits hard. Mamori-kun's hand inches toward the photo book. Mamori-kun flips it open. 3 versions of Yuzuki shown together in different outfits, posing against a sparkly background. Mamori-kun keeps telling himself not to falter while staring at a beach photo from the photo book. Yuzuki, posing by the sea. Mamori-kun snaps the book shut. Then a beach scene appears in Mamori-kun's mind. Yuzuki at the beach, smiling and waving. Mamori-kun squirms and mutters that going any further would be bad. Mamori-kun gets home and shoves the photo book away. Mamori-kun pulls things together. Yuzuki just got back from work, which means it's time to go on the offensive. Mamori-kun starts prepping. Cabbage sliced, carrots cut into strips. Mamori-kun cooks with lard for extra flavor, cranks the heat to get crispy results, and adds oyster sauce as the secret ingredient. The noodles hit the pan with a sizzle. Tonight's dish is yakisoba. Mamori-kun grins smugly, thinking about how the exhaust fan scent will reach Yuzuki's place and draw Yuzuki over. Mamori-kun rings the doorbell a few minutes later, box in hand, announcing yakisoba and inviting Yuzuki to eat together. Mamori-kun notes the plan is in motion. Yuzuki opens the door and sighs. Mamori-kun stands ready and tells Yuzuki to try resisting as usual. Yuzuki stares for a moment, then quietly says to come in. Mamori-kun is confused. Inside, Yuzuki sits quietly while Mamori-kun sets up. Mamori-kun notes Yuzuki is unusually cooperative today. Mamori-kun explains thick noodles were picked for the springy texture. Yuzuki admits to thinking about why Yuzuki kept losing the past 2 days. Pork bowls and doria aren't everyday foods. Yuzuki gave in because they felt special and rare. Yuzuki points out yakisoba is common, easy to make at home, easy to find at festivals and outdoor events. So it's not something Yuzuki can only get now. Mamori-kun goes blank. Yuzuki grins and says that's exactly why Yuzuki let Mamori-kun in. Yuzuki asks what's special about these noodles. Mamori-kun explains they're the same Chinese noodles used at the family pub, a 4-wheat blend, made by particular people who care about the milling process. Their slogan calls the noodles supple and divine. Yuzuki mumbles the word divine. The noodle makers are planning to retire this summer. Yuzuki tells Mamori-kun to shut up and declares this is the one day Yuzuki won't lose. Yuzuki insists yakisoba is just carbs with no appeal. But the smell, the color of the noodles, the meat, the toppings laid out on the table. Yuzuki's resolve starts to crack. Yuzuki starts to comment, noticing the larger cut ingredients, admiring how they give the noodles more presence. Then quickly asks if the noodle maker does low-carb varieties. Mamori-kun narrows his eyes and asks if Yuzuki is already about to give in. Mamori-kun slides the plate toward Yuzuki. Yuzuki groans. Mamori-kun tells Yuzuki to put both hands together, eat while it's hot. Yuzuki barely manages a reluctant bon appetit, and Mamori-kun thinks today's win was easy. Yuzuki takes a bite, eyes still half closed in resistance. Then the noodles hit, chewy and springy. Yuzuki's expression softens completely. Yuzuki murmurs that the texture is incredible. Yuzuki lifts a forkful and describes it, crispy outside, chewy inside, rich sauce woven through both layers. Yuzuki's eyes go wide. Yuzuki decides they're truly divine, just as advertised. Yuzuki notes the pork is moist and the vegetables stay crisp, keeping everything balanced. Yuzuki licks a finger. Both sit across from each other now. Yuzuki asks if lard was used. Something about the ingredients tastes especially juicy. Mamori-kun confirms it, laughing. Yuzuki says the flavor tastes like it came from a proper teppanyaki place. Mamori-kun thinks 3 wins out of 3. At this rate, Yuzuki will fall for the cooking completely. Mamori-kun asks why Yuzuki looks so happy today. Yuzuki slurps the noodles. Mamori-kun grabs Yuzuki's sleeve and asks something. Yuzuki shoves the door open and steps out in a swimsuit, the same one from the photo book. Mamori-kun panics and tells Yuzuki to wait. Yuzuki smirks. Mamori-kun slams the photo book shut. Mamori-kun panics. Did Mamori-kun just think of the photo book on his own? That's ridiculous. From outside, Yuzuki calls out from the balcony. The sauce smell reached next door. Mamori-kun realizes it. The exhaust fan was turned on as the opening moved before Yuzuki arrived. Yuzuki leans in from the balcony and asks how the photo book compares to the real thing. Yuzuki grins and asks for Mamori-kun's thoughts, noting Mamori-kun was staring at the photo book earlier. Yuzuki calls Mamori-kun out for it. Mamori-kun goes red and says Yuzuki looked very healthy, that's all. Yuzuki nudges Mamori-kun and keeps asking which part exactly. Mamori-kun goes speechless. Mamori-kun tells himself not to falter while staring at Yuzuki's photo book beach photo. Mamori-kun snaps it shut. Then Yuzuki pulls Mamori-kun's hand and tells Mamori-kun to come closer. The scene shifts, Yuzuki's top slips, and Yuzuki snaps it back into place. Yuzuki asks if Mamori-kun knew there's a bed scene in the photo book, or if Mamori-kun was too shy to get that far. Yuzuki asks if it makes Mamori-kun's heart race, then asks if Mamori-kun wants to touch Yuzuki's stomach. Mamori-kun thinks the food Mamori-kun just made is in Yuzuki's stomach right now. Yuzuki encourages Mamori-kun to go ahead. Mamori-kun hesitates, thinking idols definitely aren't supposed to do things like this. Mamori-kun asks if it's really okay. Yuzuki nods. Mamori-kun pokes Yuzuki's stomach and goes quiet with surprise. Yuzuki laughs and says working out is for the stage outfits, and asks if Mamori-kun wants to confirm it properly. Yuzuki flops onto the bed and tells Mamori-kun to try again. Mamori-kun protests and says to wait. Yuzuki suggests recreating the angle from the photo book by lying down. Mamori-kun freezes. Both end up on the bed. Yuzuki says Mamori-kun is cute when flustered. Mamori-kun's hand slides across Yuzuki's stomach. Mamori-kun goes completely silent. Yuzuki pants softly, then calls out to Mamori-kun. Mamori-kun marvels at how toned Yuzuki's abs are. Almost like a work of art. Mamori-kun starts thinking about getting a trainer. Yuzuki says it's about time to stop. Yuzuki flinches as Mamori-kun's hand presses further. Mamori-kun mutters about protein. Yuzuki yells at Mamori-kun to stop. Both sit up on the bed. Yuzuki says they're done. Mamori-kun apologizes. They sit in silence for a moment. Then Mamori-kun announces heading home for today, and Yuzuki tells Mamori-kun to come back tomorrow. Yuzuki is alone on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Yuzuki starts flailing. It went way too far. Yuzuki thinks letting Mamori-kun touch Yuzuki's stomach is completely out of line, no matter how much Yuzuki wants to make Mamori-kun a fan. Yuzuki sighs and thinks about the swimsuit. Can't wear it again, or the memory of today will come back. But switching to a different one might make Mamori-kun think Yuzuki is self-conscious. Yuzuki starts imagining the beach with Mamori-kun and tells Yuzuki's own self to stop. Why is it a given that they'd go together? Title splash for Chapter 5, The Entrance Ceremony at Oronokita High School. Mamori-kun heads to school on the first day of the new semester. A news report plays about an idol from a group called Comet Hunter who is pregnant and leaving the group. Mamori-kun notes that spring break was short but intense. The news report continues. The idol spent most of her income on promotion and lost the will to continue. Mamori-kun thinks Mamori-kun wants Yuzuki to fall for the cooking, but not in a way that leads to something like this news story. Mamori-kun doesn't want Yuzuki to ever have to leave the industry because of a relationship. Mamori-kun is now in Class 2A. A classmate named Natsumi spots Mamori-kun and calls out. They both end up in the same class again. Natsumi greets Mamori-kun cheerfully. A scream comes from nearby. A button has fallen off someone's uniform. Mamori-kun asks a girl nearby if Mamori-kun should fix it. Natsumi warns the girl that Mamori-kun is dangerous, overprotective, and likes taking care of people. Last year Mamori-kun was the class mother hen. Mamori-kun sews the button back on. Natsumi jokes that it's more cafeteria Annie than mom. Mamori-kun threatens a bigger lunch portion as revenge. The button is done. The girl thanks Mamori-kun. Natsumi and Mamori-kun chat about spring break. Natsumi slept in every day and went to a new movie theater. Natsumi asks about Mamori-kun's break. The entrance ceremony begins in the gymnasium. Mamori-kun says spring break was spent getting to know a new neighbor. The gym gets loud. Natsumi says there's a celebrity among the new first years. Mamori-kun asks if it's an athlete. Natsumi says no, an idol. The ceremony begins. The freshmen walk in. Mamori-kun starts to recall the name. Natsumi says it just as Mamori-kun thinks it. A girl walks in with the freshman. Mamori-kun freezes. It's Yuzuki. Mamori-kun whispers Yuzuki's name in disbelief. Yuzuki is introduced as Arisu Yuzuki, Spotlight Center. The crowd buzzes. Natsumi says Yuzuki is really cute in person and asks if they should stop by later. Mamori-kun says no, it would be an inconvenience. Mamori-kun thinks, while everyone else just wants to talk to Yuzuki once, Mamori-kun is at Yuzuki's place every single day. Mamori-kun goes pale. The news clip about alleged idol relationships flashes through Mamori-kun's mind, and Mamori-kun thinks about being on Yuzuki's bed just yesterday. Mamori-kun thinks this can't get out. The relationship with Yuzuki absolutely cannot be exposed. After school, a boy drags his reluctant friend toward the first-year classrooms. The friend wants to go home, but the boy insists, not to hit on anyone, just to hear his girlfriend's voice up close. He pushes through the door to Class 1B, buzzing with after-school chatter. Inside, classmates crowd around Arisu, asking why a top entertainer would enroll in a regular school. Arisu brushes it off, saying she's just a normal high schooler. They push back. Her skin, her look, everything screams otherwise. Arisu admits she skips fancy skincare and focuses more on diet and muscle training instead. Watching from the doorway, the boy thinks Arisu has fully switched into idol mode. Warm, polished, effortlessly likable. Then their eyes meet. Arisu freezes. The boy's friend shoves him and says they've seen enough, time to leave. But at that moment, Arisu locks eyes with the boy and her composure cracks. Arisu quickly excuses herself to the class, saying a teacher called her in. She slips out and meets the two boys in the hallway near the reference room. Suzufumi and his friend stare at her, caught off guard. The friend heads home, while Suzufumi stays behind. He plans to wait in the reference room until Arisu's staff meeting ends, saying he'll just read manga. His friend stops cold. He realizes the girlfriend Suzufumi mentioned is Arisu. Suzufumi knocks on the reference room door. Suzufumi asks to enter. A voice from inside asks what he wants. He requests a pork bowl, large with an egg. Permission granted, the door rattles open. Arisu steps out, composed but clearly thrown off by the visit. Suzufumi apologizes for barging into Arisu's classroom. He explains he only followed along to keep his friend in line. Arisu says she's not mad at Suzufumi. The two stand in the hallway. Suzufumi reaches for the door handle. Inside the reference room, Arisu tells Suzufumi she was surprised to find out he goes to the same school. She wanted to warn him ahead of time. Then Suzufumi turns it into a quick quiz, asking Arisu what she does for a living, then what idols are not allowed to do. Arisu answers correctly, being an idol. Suzufumi gives her 50 points and asks the follow-up. Arisu gives the answer, getting close with someone of the opposite gender. She then lays out the situation plainly. If people see Arisu and Suzufumi acting familiar, they'll assume they've known each other a long time. That impression alone could cause misunderstandings. Suzufumi quietly takes it in, realizing others might get the wrong idea. Arisu makes her request clear. Suzufumi should pretend not to know her at school and stay away from the first-year classrooms. No male friends, no room for scandal. Suzufumi agrees without argument. Then, with a grin, he mentions he'll have to cancel his plan to bring Arisa homemade lunches every day. Arisa stares at him, absolutely not amused. Suzufumi suggests they leave right away. The door slams behind them. Out in the hallway, another student spots them together, and Arisu's eyes go wide. The student calls out, it's Sasaki Yuzuki. Suzufumi and Arisu both freeze. The student explains he was just coming to grab old documents, since the student council has a key to the reference room. He wonders why Arisu is here. Arisu panics. She thought the door was locked. The student apologizes, assumes he walked in on something, and backs away fast, promising to come back later and keep quiet. Suzufumi goes pale. The misunderstanding is already spreading in the worst direction. Arisu stares at him in alarm. Suzufumi knows he can't let that student just walk away. Arisu is still frozen. Suzufumi turns to her and demands her answer, now. Arisu barely processes the word. Suzufumi grabs her attention and tells her straight. He needs a reply to his confession. He won't let it go unanswered. The other student peeks back around the corner. Arisu goes silent. Arisu tells Mamori senpai she can't go out with him. Mamori pushes back hard. He confessed at a handshake event, so why won't she give him a chance? Arisu clarifies that what she said back then was as a fan, not as a woman. Mamori asks if there's really no chance at all. Arisu stays quiet. Mamori says he understands and backs off. Suzufumi tells Arisu he won't try to talk to her at school anymore. But he asks for one thing. Let him watch her live every now and then. Arisu quietly thanks him. Mamori panics, slaps himself to shake it off, then stomps straight to class 2A and slams the door shut. Mamori slumps against the wall outside. Suzufumi sighs by the door. Mamori covers his face. Even knowing it was all an act, getting rejected still stings. Arisu steps up and tells him it's time to go home. Arisu peeks out from the classroom doorway and spots Suzufumi. Arisu bows and apologizes. It was her fault things got messy. Suzufumi tells her to hurry home before anyone else spots them. Arisu keeps apologizing. Arisu starts to say more, but Suzufumi cuts her off and says not to worry. It was unavoidable given the situation. The two stand apart in the hallway. Suzufumi turns away and tells Arisu to do him a favor sometime, so they're even, unless a top idol is too good for that. Arisu snaps to attention, caught off guard. Arisu insists that's not true and promises to return the favor 3 times over. Suzufumi says see you later and heads off. Arisu watches, a bit dazed. That night, a thought crosses Suzufumi's mind. It's time to collect on that favor. Arisu opens the door, surprised at how fast Suzufumi showed up. Inside, Suzufumi groans dramatically about his broken heart still aching. Arisu tells him she didn't say anything that extreme. Suzufumi sets something down and announces he's made a special dish he's been wanting to cook for her. Arisu wonders silently if she really said she'd eat until her stomach burst, and whether feeding this to an idol would cause weight gain. Suzufumi tells her to come eat. Arisu stares at the dish in front of her. Suzufumi announces tonight's menu, galettes. Arisu asks if it's going to be smothered in gravy and oil, like one of his usual heavy meals. Suzufumi says absolutely not. Suzufumi figures Arisu must be worn out from the entrance ceremony, keeping up appearances in front of classmates, and everything that went wrong that day. According to the official site, Arisu's favorite foods are galettes and crepes, but Suzufumi knows Arisu would rather have hearty, everyday food in private. Still, there are meat-based galettes too. Arisu fidgets, visibly unsure what to expect. Arisu admits galettes are one of her favorites, but trails off. Suzufumi clutches his chest dramatically and whines that his heart still hurts. Arisu looks at him, a bit guilty, and mutters that it's not fair. Suzufumi slides over a plate and tells Arisu to just try a slice for now. That way the favor's settled. Arisu accepts, saying that makes sense. Arisu tells herself this is for repentance. She has no choice but to eat it. Suzufumi agrees cheerfully. Arisu claps and digs in. The first bite stops her cold. Arisu lights up. The crispy buckwheat crust gives way to something chewy and fun. The bacon and mushrooms fill the mouth with savory flavor, smoothed out by the cream and cheese. Arisu can't stop chewing. Arisu keeps eating, completely captivated. The warm crust pairs perfectly with the cool salmon, a texture totally unique to that fish. Suzufumi watches and thinks that look on Arisu's face suits Arisu best of all. Since Suzufumi went out of the way to make galettes, Suzufumi is determined to make Arisu enjoy every last bite. Suzufumi asks what Arisu wants next, the refreshing tomato and asparagus option, the hearty sausage and potato one, or maybe the banana and berry for dessert. Without a second thought, Arisu picks the sausage and potato. Suzufumi smiles to himself. That's exactly the kind of choice Arisu would make. Arisu eats quietly, clearly enjoying it. Suzufumi turns away and stays silent. After a while, Suzufumi tells Arisu she's still putting up a front and doesn't need to be so tense around Suzufumi. Arisu asks how Suzufumi knew. Suzufumi sighs and says it's obvious. They eat dinner together every day. Suzufumi leans in close and Arisu freezes. Arisu opens up. Arisu had wanted to be the perfect idol not just on stage and on camera, but at school too. But the reference room incident was a failure, and it ended up causing Suzufumi trouble. Arisu didn't want Suzufumi to worry, and even made galettes knowing Arisu was feeling down. Arisu quietly says that Arisu is no good. Suzufumi is overwhelmed by the closeness but snaps back and tells Arisu not to look down. This much is nothing, considering how long Suzufumi has spent looking out for others. Arisu asks why Suzufumi keeps getting so involved when there's nothing in it for Suzufumi. Suzufumi sits back. Arisu adds that Suzufumi's goal to be a perfect idol shouldn't have anything to do with Suzufumi. Suzufumi says plainly that Suzufumi doesn't particularly need Sasaki Yuzuki to be a perfect idol, and isn't helping toward that goal either. Suzufumi helped Sasaki Yuzuki because Suzufumi wants to support what Arisu is working toward. Suzufumi just wants Arisu to enjoy life. And while this time it happened to benefit Arisu, it's also something Suzufumi is doing for Suzufumi's own sake. Arisu goes quiet. Arisu asks what Suzufumi means. Suzufumi points out that Arisu just said helping her won't bring any benefit, but that's not true. Suzufumi explains, just eating dinner together like this, knowing Sasaki Yuzuki sitting across the table is doing okay and smiling. That's all it takes to make Suzufumi happy. Arisu smiles quietly, charmed every time by Suzufumi's cooking. Suzufumi thinks about how good it feels to watch that from right across the table. Suzufumi says simply that Suzufumi just enjoys the time spent sharing a meal with Arisu. Arisu laughs softly and says that's weird. Suzufumi tells Arisu not to overthink it and just act naturally. Suzufumi will keep making meals from tomorrow on, but Arisu shouldn't force it just to repay a favor. Arisu squeezes something quietly and thanks Suzufumi. Then Arisu says there's one more question. Arisu looks up and asks, if Arisu is ever in trouble again, will Suzufumi help? Suzufumi looks at Arisu for a moment, then calls it a dumb question. Of course Suzufumi would. Suzufumi says it plainly. If Sasaki Yuzuki is ever in trouble, Suzufumi will help no matter what. Isn't that obvious? The room goes quiet. Arisu stares at Suzufumi, silent for a moment. Suzufumi asks if Arisu is okay. Something shifts in Arisu's expression. Arisu snaps back and insists everything is fine. Arisu glances sideways. Then, with sudden determination, Arisu declares that next time, Arisu will definitely not lose. Suzufumi blinks and says okay. Arisu tells Suzufumi to remember the promise that Suzufumi said he'd help. The next morning at school, Suzufumi's friend runs up and greets Suzufumi loudly. Suzufumi asks how the friend knows anything. The friend grins and says word got around that Suzufumi confessed to Arisu Yuzuki. Suzufumi's friend teases him for always lecturing others about common sense while breaking it himself, going after a teacher, no less. Suzufumi fires back that common sense goes out the window when it comes to feelings. The friend turns serious for a moment and warns Suzufumi to be careful. Getting mixed up with the wrong kind of fan could cause real problems. Suzufumi thanks the friend for the warning and wonders quietly if school life will ever settle down. The classroom door opens and a cheerful teacher walks in. Mikami Mamos, the modern literature teacher. Before starting class, Mikami announces there's something to address first. Mikami informs the class that one of this year's incoming freshmen is a TV personality. The school doesn't prohibit part-time work, so staff will do their best to support the balance between studies and entertainment. However, students should be very careful about romantic involvement, especially since photos or videos with someone of the opposite gender could harm the idol's career. Mikami adds that students absolutely must not approach Yuzuki's classroom out of curiosity, and especially not after developing a one-sided fixation. The class buzzes with chatter. Arisu, sitting at the front, locks eyes across the room with Suzufumi. Mikami closes with a reminder that a student's main purpose is to study. Suzufumi sits silently, aware he's being treated like a suspect. Even knowing the confession was fake, it still stings a little. His classmates tell him not to worry about it and offer to buy him a drink. The bell rings and someone tosses something onto the desk. Suzufumi figures that's about all the help he can offer for now and heads toward the first-year classrooms to check on things. Midway there, Suzufumi freezes. If someone spots Suzufumi here, it'll look like stalking. Suzufumi turns to leave, muttering Yuzuki's name quietly to himself. Then Suzufumi realizes, this is Yuzuki's classroom. Suzufumi peeks through the gap in the door. Inside, Mikami-sensei is rubbing her face against the seat where Arisu sat, muttering to herself about how close Arisu had been. Mikami notices Suzufumi watching. The chapter title splash appears. Suzufumi stares, completely baffled. Mikami keeps going, rambling about how much Arisu means to Mikami, and how Mikami would need the photo album ready if students ever found out. Mikami's self-awareness is clearly long gone. Suzufumi watches from outside, stunned. Mikami snaps back to reality and announces there's a staff meeting soon, then moves to leave. Arisu enters the classroom at the same time, and the two run into each other. Arisu looks up, startled. It's Mikami-sensei. Mikami straightens up immediately and declares with pride that at least Mikami hasn't licked the seat. Arisu pleads for Mikami to stop. Mikami reminds Arisu of what was said in homeroom. No one is allowed near Arisu's classroom. Arisu agrees, clearly flustered. Suzufumi, also caught, insists it wasn't intentional. Suzufumi wasn't looking for Class B specifically. Mikami explains that a voice was overheard, and Mikami decided to peek, not expecting to find that. Suzufumi asks plainly if Mikami is really one of Arisu's fans. Mikami waves the label off entirely. Mikami pulls out a Spotlight's fan club card, member number 5. Mikami has attended many events, kept the monthly food budget under 5,000 yen, and bought all clothes secondhand to fund it. The only event Mikami hasn't attended is the handshake event. Suzufumi asks why. Mikami smiles knowingly. Mikami announces loudly that it's because Arisu is simply too cute. Mikami admits to being good-looking, personable, and the idol of Orakita High, but standing next to the real thing. Mikami is just a generic idol. If Mikami were to touch Arisu, Arisu would be tainted. Suzufumi stares blankly. Mikami explains the logic. If Arisu's voice were heard up close at a handshake event, Mikami would probably cut off an ear to preserve it. So instead, Mikami practices by touching the chair first to build up tolerance. Mikami then asks Suzufumi if Suzufumi knows where the word fan comes from. The answer is fanatic. Mikami turns serious and asks if everything heard today stays between them. Suzufumi says nothing. Mikami warns that if Suzufumi keeps this up, there will be consequences, and pulls out a phone. Mikami reveals the recording was started when a suspicious person was spotted entering the school. The recording has already captured Mikami's outburst in full. Suzufumi goes pale. Suzufumi says the harassment needs to stop, and that Suzufumi has no intention of spreading anything. Mikami grumbles, but gives in for today, with one clear warning: don't let the guard down. Mikami adds that there are many Arisu fans at this school, and anyone who tries to cause trouble will be dealt with by fans armed with unopened merchandise. Mikami leaves for the staff meeting. Suzufumi stands alone, relieved the worst is over, but already tired from the day. Suzufumi decides to go home and start dinner. That evening, the doorbell rings. Yuzuki is back. Suzufumi opens the door to find Kishibe Rika, a senior at Orakita High and a former neighbor. Rika announces that she came to see Suzufumi and teases Suzufumi for the lukewarm welcome. Rika introduces herself to the reader as Suzufumi's childhood friend and former neighbor. Suzufumi asks how Rika got past the entrance. Rika explains she got Suzufumi's address from Suzufumi's mother after her shift at the family izakaya ended. As a belated housewarming gift, Rika brought pudding that Suzufumi had been eyeing. Suzufumi thanks Rika and invites Rika in. Rika unloads everything she brought: condiments Suzufumi wanted, cookies, shirts, pants, and socks. Suzufumi says it's way too much. Rika tells Suzufumi to come inside and announces that Rika is going to spoil Suzufumi completely today. Suzufumi must be worn out from moving and starting the new term. Suzufumi declines, but appreciates the gesture. Rika pushes anyway, asking what Suzufumi actually wants. Rika likes to take care of Suzufumi however Rika can. The problem is Rika is terrible at housework. When Rika cooks, things catch fire. Sewing ends in pricked fingers. Even cleaning just makes things messier. Rika is well liked at the izakaya, but at home it's a different story. Rika offers to help unpack. Suzufumi says it's already done. Groceries, also done. Laundry, finished and ironed. Rika runs out of options. Rika complains that Suzufumi left nothing to do. Suzufumi tells Rika to just relax on the couch before heading home. Rika goes to wash up. Minutes pass. Suzufumi sighs. Rika is not coming back. A crash and a scream come from the bathroom. Suzufumi rushes over. The door slides open to reveal Rika soaked on the floor. Suzufumi tells Rika to explain. Rika explains. While washing hands, Rika noticed the tub and decided to clean it, then slipped on the wet floor. Suzufumi puts out a change of clothes. Rika cheerfully announces feeling refreshed after, and tells Suzufumi the pudding is in the fridge. The list of things Rika cannot do has grown longer. Rika asks if Suzufumi hasn't eaten dinner yet. Suzufumi says dessert comes after dinner. Rika mentions not having eaten either and offers to cook in return for borrowing clothes and a shower. Suzufumi thinks fast. Arisu will be back soon, and a scene right after moving in would be bad. Suzufumi suggests making something quick like chicken saburo to wrap things up fast. Rika narrows her eyes and says something feels off. Suzufumi would normally go all out even late at night. Rika asks if Suzufumi is trying to rush her out. Suzufumi denies it, badly. Rika points out that Suzufumi's right cheek twitches whenever he's hiding something. Suzufumi freezes. Rika asks directly if a girlfriend is coming over. Suzufumi insists there are just some circumstances. Rika groans and laments that Suzufumi's heart has moved away along with the apartment. Suzufumi asks why they're suddenly talking about romance. Rika says she heard a rumor at school that Mamori Suzufumi from year 2 confessed to Sasaki Yuzuki. Rika adds that of course Rika didn't believe it. Suzufumi isn't interested in idols and isn't the type to just go along with things. Rika asks what actually happened. Suzufumi admits the confession to Sasaki Yuzuki was real, but explains there were circumstances. It started with bumping into Arisu in the reference room. Suzufumi thinks carefully about how much to reveal, knowing Arisu is the neighbor but not wanting to lie to Rika. Rika takes it in and says she'll believe Suzufumi for now. Suzufumi is relieved. Managed to get through without mentioning Arisu is the neighbor. Rika asks one more time to be sure. Suzufumi really isn't dating Sasaki Yuzuki, right? Suzufumi confirms they're not dating and apologizes for the worry. Rika says she'll leave soon since Suzufumi seems to have things to do. Then Rika casually asks whose boots are by the entrance. Suzufumi goes pale. Rika tricked Suzufumi into confirming someone's coming. Rika slams the door and leaves. Rika shouts at Suzufumi from the hallway. The pudding spills in the commotion. Suzufumi grabs Rika. Rika matters more than the sofa right now. Suzufumi calls out for Rika to wait. Rika accuses Suzufumi of only seeing Rika as a convenient maid. Suzufumi denies it completely. Rika snaps. If Suzufumi gets along so well with the top idol, why not just move in together? Suzufumi repeats that there's nothing going on with Arisu. At that moment, Arisu appears at the door and asks what's going on. Featuring Arisu and Rika side by side with the series title and the tagline about food and love. Two characters displayed together. Suzufumi asks Rika to stir the batter. Rika agrees to give it everything. Suzufumi peeks over at Arisu and apologizes. Arisu says Arisu understands most of what happened. It all started when Arisu called Suzufumi to the reference room. Arisu tells Suzufumi not to apologize for that. Suzufumi apologizes for also bringing Riko along. Arisu says it's fine. It would have felt wrong to send Riko away in that situation. Rika asks about the batter, wondering if they should add soy sauce, mirin, Worcestershire, or even maple syrup as a hidden flavor. Suzufumi snaps back and tells Rika that today's menu is okonomiyaki. The batter is fine as is. Suzufumi says the plain batter is intentional, then pulls Rika over and offers to walk Rika through it so Rika can manage solo next time. Rika insists she's only a little bad at cooking. Suzufumi and Rika stand together at the counter. Arisu starts to say Arisu isn't much of a cook either. Then Rika cuts in and reminds Arisu that this is Suzufumi's home and that Rika was in the middle of talking with Suzufumi. Arisu fires back that Rika isn't Arisu's home. Rika claims Suzufumi belongs to Rika. Suzufumi flatly says no. Rika stares at the okonomiyaki and mutters that it's not going to finish cooking anytime soon, then admits quietly that it's hard to believe the top idol Rika kept hearing about turns out to be Suzufumi's neighbor. Arisu tells Rika that Suzufumi has been taking care of Arisu in various ways. All three of them freeze for a moment. Suzufumi pulls Rika aside while Arisu goes quiet. Rika hides behind Suzufumi, watching carefully. Rika tells Arisu that if Arisu doesn't like Suzufumi's cooking, Arisu should just say so. Arisu fires back. Arisu never asked Suzufumi to cook. Arisu just ends up eating it because the food is too good to refuse. Rika narrows her eyes and asks if that means Arisu basically likes Suzufumi's cooking. Arisu freezes. Rika then turns it around and asks what Rika herself is. Too close to Suzufumi lately, isn't Arisu? Suzufumi tells Arisu not to mind Rika too much. Rika insists she's basically an older sister to Suzufumi, so it's fine. Suzufumi mutters that it's more like a little sister situation. Arisu watches Rika cling to Suzufumi and sulks quietly. Suzufumi notices something is off about Arisu and calls out. Suzufumi mentions it's almost time to cook the batter and goes to grab some pickled ginger. Arisu points out Suzufumi already left it in the fridge. Suzufumi finds it and asks how Arisu knew. Arisu says it's obvious. Suzufumi makes it every day after all. Rika cheerfully announces she'll also make her special spicy mayo. Suzufumi checks if that will be okay. Rika says she's made it dozens of times at home. Even Suzufumi can count on Rika for this much. Arisu's expression twitches. Rika announces the okonomiyaki is almost done. Arisu goes quiet. Rika calls everyone to eat. Suzufumi calls for everyone to dig in. Arisu and Rika both light up at the first bite. Suzufumi explains the softness comes from adding yams to the batter. Rika is amazed by the tender inside, the seafood, and the mayo sauce combo. Arisu agrees, it's so fluffy. Rika grips her chopsticks and thinks to herself that Suzufumi's food isn't just Rika's alone. Arisu declares this out loud, pointing her chopsticks at Rika. Rika stares, caught off guard. Arisu takes another bite, and quietly notes how fluffy it really is. Arisu fully loses herself in the food. The cabbage, yams, shrimp, and octopus all blend into a rich, deep flavor. The special sauce and spicy mayo hit the perfect balance of sweet and heat. Rika watches with wide eyes, completely thrown. Rika tells Suzufumi that the spicy mayo sauce took years to perfect, and it's even used at the family restaurant. Suzufumi thinks quietly that good food makes people smile, and that this is exactly what peace looks like. Rika tells Suzufumi to stop just cooking and eat up too. Suzufumi says to go ahead without Suzufumi and will eat after both are full. Rika holds up a large piece of okonomiyaki to feed Suzufumi. Suzufumi starts to warn that the size is a problem. Rika pops it in anyway. It's scorching hot. Suzufumi chews through it in visible pain. Rika tugs at Suzufumi from one side. Arisu calls Suzufumi over from the other. The okonomiyaki is still burning. Arisu reminds Suzufumi that Suzufumi said Arisu should eat a lot. Suzufumi struggles, unable to answer. Arisu points out that Suzufumi had Kishibe-san do the feeding, so if Kishibe-san won't do it for Arisu now, Arisu will miss the chance to be won over by the food. Arisu leans in cheerfully. Suzufumi hesitates, clearly flustered. Rika and Arisu both wait with chopsticks ready. Suzufumi just sweats. Rika goes ahead and feeds Arisu instead, offering to do it as many times as Arisu wants. Arisu eats it. Rika smirks and says Arisu wanted to be fed. So there, good enough? Arisu looks surprised. Arisu and Rika both hold out pieces to feed each other at the same time. They end up in sync. Suzufumi watches, completely done with the situation, and mutters that they're in perfect sync. With Arisu holding a textbook and the tagline about taunting play. Arisu visits Suzufumi's door and hints she was wondering if Suzufumi is good at studying. Suzufumi asks directly if Arisu wants Suzufumi to teach. Arisu holds out a history textbook. Arisu explains the plan, a date with an idol for a day, one through studying together in close proximity. It's a technique designed to make the heart race. Suzufumi tells Arisu to be honest. Arisu squirms and admits it. Arisu hasn't been at school much and keeps leaving early. The workload is too much to finish alone. Suzufumi suggests getting together with classmates for a study session. Arisu says that's not possible. Arisu explains, there are girls at school Arisu talks to, but it would feel weird to ask them for weekend help when they aren't close enough to be studying together. Arisu hides behind the textbook, embarrassed. Suzufumi says fine, and adds as an answer to Arisu's earlier question. Suzufumi placed 20th in the finals first year. Arisu lights up immediately and declares they start at Arisu's place right now. Yuzuki looks confused when a boy at the door apologizes and says he needs to go home to take care of something. He asks if she's okay with coming over another time. Yuzuki says it's fine. Once inside, Suzufumi comments that Yuzuki's place is pretty plain. Yuzuki thinks there's nothing to worry about. Kishibe-san was probably fine too. Suzufumi sets down oolong tea and says it's strong since it has a lot of leaves. Suzufumi asks where Yuzuki wants to start. Yuzuki points to the handout. Then Suzufumi suddenly grins. Yuzuki notices and asks why Suzufumi is smiling. Suzufumi thinks it happened faster than expected, and now it's too late. Suzufumi tells Yuzuki to drink up and not be shy. Yuzuki mutters about wanting to go home. Suzufumi says to forget it and just focus on the work. Yuzuki tries to bolt, shouting to let go. Suzufumi figures something out and grabs Yuzuki's wrist, blocking the escape entirely. Yuzuki freezes in shock. Suzufumi is making homemade ramen. A big pot bubbles on the stove. Suzufumi notes that this kind of hands-on cooking only works on a day off. Suzufumi explains that the ramen is modeled after Jiromaru, a popular chain loved by fans everywhere. The noodles are extra thick and made from stronger flour, prepared the day before. Suzufumi tells Yuzuki it's up to Yuzuki whether to eat or not, and adds that after a long remedial session, resisting home-style Jiro ramen won't be easy. Yuzuki collapses on the spot. Both of them get to work. Yuzuki scribbles through the handout, while Suzufumi works through the material too. The name Jiromaru keeps looping in Yuzuki's head, making it hard to focus. Yuzuki grips the pencil tighter. Suzufumi notices and asks what's going on. Yuzuki slams down and declares giving up. Suzufumi gently shakes Yuzuki and asks if everything is okay, then suggests eating dinner soon. Both smile at each other. Suzufumi shuts it down. Deadline is tomorrow, so no food until everything is done. Ramen makes Yuzuki sleepy, so eating now is out. Suzufumi says finish the assignment first. Yuzuki lets out a loud cry of protest. Suzufumi says Yuzuki can handle the rest alone now, since everything Yuzuki didn't know has already been covered. Suzufumi offers to soak the pot and wash it tomorrow, so cleanup isn't a problem. Yuzuki points out that Suzufumi has been helping all afternoon and calls it impressive. Suzufumi pats Yuzuki on the head. Suzufumi keeps patting Yuzuki's head and describes the ramen, the thick broth, the extra thick noodles, the garlic, the chashu. Suzufumi tells Yuzuki there's no need to hold back anymore, that home-style gyru ramen is ready whenever. Yuzuki freezes up and tries to say something. Yuzuki leans in close and tells Suzufumi to hurry up and make it. Suzufumi quietly agrees. Suzufumi walks through the recipe, 1 part dark soy sauce, mirin, and MSG to 5 parts emulsified broth. The soup and fat combine into a rich base. The extra thick noodles have a wheat skin that gives them a unique texture. Suzufumi adds 300 g of noodles, twice the usual amount, along with heavy bean sprouts and soft cabbage. Suzufumi asks if Yuzuki wants garlic. Yuzuki calls out the full order, large, with veggies, garlic, chili paste, and double pork. Suzufumi confirms it and sets the bowl down. Both say bon appetit and dig in. Yuzuki takes the first bite and lights up. The chashu melts right away. The back fat is sweet. The vegetables are rich enough to be a side dish on their own. Every bite is juicy, and the oolong tea washes everything down perfectly. Yuzuki keeps eating, praising how the noodles are firm but smooth, coated in oil so they go down easy. Yuzuki sets down the chopsticks with a satisfied grunt. Suzufumi looks over, confused. Suzufumi chokes a little on the heat. Yuzuki fans herself and says it's so hot. Suzufumi stares and just says what? Yuzuki's chopstick slips. Suzufumi snaps back that it's nothing. Yuzuki keeps eating. Broth drips. The bowl goes empty. Yuzuki says thanks for the food. Suzufumi thinks, a camisole is basically a bra, and there's no way to handle that. Yuzuki flops down and admits doing it again, but says today was unavoidable. Suzufumi sighs and asks what's up. Yuzuki lies there, and quietly mentions that eating at Suzufumi's place felt unthinkable not that long ago. Suzufumi asks if Yuzuki can get back to studying. Yuzuki groans, and says sleep sounds better. Suzufumi mentions it's been a while since having a real day off, then starts to bring something up, maybe going out in the afternoon after finishing assignments in the morning, then cuts it short and says never mind. Yuzuki perks up and mentions getting into board games lately. Suzufumi points out that board games need a partner, and none of Suzufumi's classmates would probably be interested. Yuzuki says there are good ones under 1,000 yen. Then Yuzuki goes quiet for a moment, and offers to play together sometime between workouts and practice, if Suzufumi has free time. Suzufumi looks surprised. Both lying upside down, Suzufumi says maybe if there's spare time. Yuzuki mentions finishing homework in the first half of Golden Week and maybe going out with classmates. Then brings up that it's almost Golden Week and asks if Suzufumi has plans. Suzufumi mentions that Rika wanted to see the penguin show, so the plan is to go to the aquarium together. Yuzuki goes quiet and mutters about Kishibe-san. Suzufumi explains that since having okonomiyaki together, Rika has been asking to go out more often, which is rare outside of birthdays. Suzufumi thinks Rika probably wants to enjoy things before entrance exam prep kicks in. Yuzuki stares, then tells Suzufumi to send updates from the aquarium every 15 minutes, where they went, what they ate, everything. Suzufumi is baffled. Suzufumi offers to send penguin videos instead, wondering if Yuzuki likes penguins too. Yuzuki says just selfies are fine. Suzufumi points out selfies might get in the way of the penguins. Yuzuki insists it's fine and blurts out not even being interested in penguins, dolphins, or anemones. Suzufumi asks what Yuzuki is actually interested in then. Suzufumi gets up and decides that at moments like this, dessert is the better move rather than pushing further. Suzufumi offers sorbet, vanilla, or orange. Yuzuki, still catching breath, picks orange. Suzufumi notes, already knowing about Yuzuki's mint preference. Yuzuki brightens up and calls it very well. Suzufumi thinks, no matter how much domestic skill improves, a woman's heart stays a mystery. Yuzuki sits at a desk in class, looking vaguely dissatisfied, holding a pen. About a month has passed since second year started. Golden Week came and went fast. A message from Rika reads that she caught a cold. The aquarium trip with Rika didn't happen. Rika pushed too hard during the first half of the holiday and got sick. Rika sent an apology and Suzufumi went to visit instead. Rika apologizes for causing trouble and says something about wanting to be the reliable older one. Meanwhile, Yuzuki's idol group Spotlights has been appearing on variety shows. Their main work is performing as idols, but a big live show in Tokyo is coming up. Yuzuki and the rest of the group have been rehearsing late every night. Because of that, Suzufumi hasn't shared a meal with Yuzuki in a week, and the days feel flat. Suzufumi has never actually seen Yuzuki in idol mode. The thought comes up to try buying a streaming ticket. While planning errands, supermarket, drugstore, dry cleaning, Suzufumi thinks about checking the local shopping street for a change. The conclusion is simple. Suzufumi just likes doing housework and being useful to others. Suzufumi works in the kitchen and reflects on how things have shifted. At first, Yuzuki seemed annoyed whenever a meal was cooked. Lately, Yuzuki accepts it more easily. Suzufumi wonders if it's greedy to want this to continue. Then quietly admits, really wanting to see Yuzuki. Suzufumi thinks that just chatting would be enough, but Yuzuki's live show is coming up, and a fan meeting right after that. Suzufumi wonders about Yuzuki's parents in Niigata and whether they stay in touch. The worry quietly builds. What if all of May passes like this, just missing each other? Then Yuzuki's voice cuts through from behind. Yuzuki calls out and leans in close. Suzufumi snaps back to reality. Yuzuki says talking the whole time and being ignored is unacceptable. Suzufumi apologizes and admits being lost in thought. Yuzuki asks to walk home together. Suzufumi thinks, no matter how many times, Yuzuki in school mode is just adorable. Yuzuki asks if they were supposed to act like strangers at school. Suzufumi points out they're already off campus and far enough from the building. Yuzuki says gossip magazines might still be a risk. Suzufumi agrees, not unless something obvious happens, like holding hands in public. Yuzuki goes quiet and just goes along with it. They spot a favorite mart with a grand opening sign. Yuzuki nudges Suzufumi to walk a bit closer. Suzufumi says walking to school isn't bad either. Yuzuki suggests doing something normal and grabbing an after-school snack on Yuzuki's tab. Suzufumi notices the store and says hot food is the way to go for snacks, probably freshly fried chicken lined up inside. Yuzuki looks unsure. Suzufumi thinks about how hard Yuzuki has been working with rehearsals before the live show and really wants to treat Yuzuki to something good. Yuzuki needs to recharge while possible. Suzufumi holds out a hand and asks if that's Yuzuki's way of saying it's okay to be treated. Yuzuki hesitates. Suzufumi hands over the Favo Chiki and says not to burn anything. Yuzuki stares at it. This is the famous Favo Chiki. Suzufumi asks if it's really Yuzuki's first time. Yuzuki confirms. There weren't many convenience stores back home, and after moving to Tokyo, hot snacks have been avoided. Yuzuki mutters that eating something this greasy is probably a crime for an idol. Yuzuki hesitates, but takes a bite anyway. One munch, and the reaction hits immediately. Juicy, crispy, packed with flavor. Suzufumi says it's too late to back out now and offers to take it if Yuzuki won't eat. Yuzuki holds on tight and keeps eating, completely won over. Yuzuki raves about the taste. Tender, goes down easy, nothing like what was expected. Suzufumi mentions seeing a Favo Chiki bowl recipe once, simmered with onions and noodle sauce, topped with beaten egg, oyakudon style, or a combo bowl with sweet and spicy pork and bite-sized pieces on the side. Yuzuki starts drooling on the spot. Suzufumi eats quietly while Yuzuki stares. Then Yuzuki suddenly yells thief. Suzufumi is eating from the same one. Suzufumi points out already being on that piece and that Yuzuki's is still there. Both keep walking and eating. Suzufumi finishes and thinks it might be years before having another one. Suzufumi thinks about which version of the Favo Chiki bowl to pitch to Yuzuki on the way home. Then another student appears nearby. Suzufumi spots the person first. It's Hozumi. Suzufumi immediately grabs Yuzuki and tells Yuzuki to hide. Yuzuki barely has time to react. Being seen together could be a problem. Suzufumi pulls Yuzuki close against the wall. Suzufumi quietly apologizes. Yuzuki goes still and silent, wide-eyed, pressed against Suzufumi's chest. Suzufumi admits it was a super rare situation, but worries about running into someone else. Moving recklessly could mean bumping into housewives heading to the supermarket, and word about walking around with a girlfriend would spread fast. Some of those housewives could be parents of Orikita students. Suzufumi catches the word and quickly backtracks. That was a slip of the tongue. Yuzuki stares quietly and repeats the word girlfriend. Yuzuki glances around nervously. Suzufumi redirects and tells Yuzuki to just focus on protecting the idol image. Yuzuki quietly agrees. The two head into the building together and press the elevator button. In the elevator, Suzufumi offers to toss the Favo Chiki wrapper and apologizes for leaving Yuzuki holding it. Yuzuki says thanks. Yuzuki glances sideways with a small smile. Suzufumi freezes up. Both step out of the elevator, side by side, still flushed, not quite looking at each other, but their hands are touching. Their hands are close together. Yuzuki thanks Suzufumi for walking home. Suzufumi points out they live next door. Yuzuki mentions having rehearsal tonight and staying at the office nap room, then says see you later and disappears inside. The door closes. Suzufumi stands alone in the hallway, stunned, wondering if the line just got crossed. Yuzuki is shown upside down, wide-eyed and tense. It's just past 6 a.m. on the day of the Spotlights concert. Suzufumi spots a yellow napkin pulled from the back of the closet, the same color as a certain idol's image color. The plan, hand a bento to the neighbor. The real issue is figuring out how to actually give it to Yuzuki. Yuzuki opens the door and reacts with surprise, seeing Suzufumi. Suzufumi says good morning, then asks if Yuzuki is nervous. Yuzuki admits exactly that. Suzufumi mentions buying a streaming ticket. The concert's at 7 p.m. Yuzuki lights up and declares today will be the day Suzufumi becomes a fan. Suzufumi holds out the bento. Yuzuki asks what it is. Suzufumi explains, live shows take stamina, so Yuzuki shouldn't restrict too much on the big day. It's mostly fish and veggies. Nutrition was thought through carefully. Yuzuki opens it and stares. All of this is lunch? Suzufumi says any leftovers can go in the freezer and heads out. Yuzuki calls out to wait. Suzufumi just waves and goes. Yuzuki holds the bento and shouts to enjoy the concert. Later at school, Suzufumi's phone rings. It's Yuzuki Sasaki calling. Suzufumi sits on a bench wondering if Yuzuki liked the special healthy bento. Yuzuki calls from the dressing room, shocked. The bento layers. Top has tonkatsu, white fish fry, and a meatball medley. Middle has spaghetti salad, potato salad, and mashed pumpkin. Bottom is packed fried rice. Yuzuki demands to know what part of this is healthy. Suzufumi says there's also a chopped salad with leafy greens on the side. Yuzuki points out this is not a one-person portion. From the dressing room, the staff already said it looked more like a sports day lunchbox. Even the other members were taken aback. Suzufumi says Yuzuki could have just thanked later. Calling during prep is very dutiful. Yuzuki says the other members haven't arrived yet, so it's fine for now. Yuzuki insists this call isn't about thanking Suzufumi. Yuzuki compares it to those fan bonus 1-minute calls with an ashi. Except this one feels mutual since they actually know each other. Suzufumi points out they talk in person all the time, so it's not that rare. Yuzuki admits being kind of forced to accept the bento and says tossing it would be a waste. Suzufumi says Yuzuki was clearly ready to eat it. Yuzuki digs in, starting with the good luck tonkatsu. Even cold, the breading stays crispy. The thin slices feel light. The white fish is crispy outside and fluffy inside, with chunky tartar sauce. The meatballs are dense and satisfying. Yuzuki is fully into it. Yuzuki raves about the black vinegar leaving a clean aftertaste. Suzufumi quietly thinks, just wanting to hear Yuzuki's voice a little more. A minute passes, but Suzufumi says nothing uncool. Yuzuki mentions the middle layer salad making a nice break between bites. Yuzuki keeps going. The spaghetti salad is rich with mayo, but the cucumber and black pepper balance it. Potato salad feels heavy, but works. The mashed pumpkin is sweet, almost like dessert. Then the fried rice. The chunky pork hits hard, green onion balances it, and the soy sauce aroma rounds everything out warmly. Yuzuki laughs and says the simple ingredients pair easily with everything. Suzufumi sits on the bench, Yuzuki's smile vivid in mind. The school bell rings. Suzufumi realizes afternoon classes are starting and says goodbye. Yuzuki tries to say something with a full mouth. Suzufumi tells Yuzuki to swallow first. Yuzuki swallows, then both fall quiet. Suzufumi tells Yuzuki to go win a ton of new fans. Yuzuki says to leave it to Yuzuki, in perfect condition. Both go silent for a moment. Yuzuki starts to say something. Hey, Suzufumi. Suzufumi starts to say something back. Yuzuki asks directly, holding the phone, do you like me? Yuzuki tells Suzufumi not to answer if it's too hard. Then adds, lately, every day has just been so much fun. TV shows, variety work, voice training, dance practice, all of it. Suzufumi asks if it wasn't like that before. Yuzuki says of course it was fun. Becoming an idol was a dream come true. Yuzuki says there are hard days too, but becoming Yuzuki Arisu is something to never regret. The decision was made to live as Yuzuki Arisu for the rest of life. But the one on the phone right now, eating through a massive bento, that's just plain Yuzuki Sasaki. Rika, Mikami-sensei, Hozumi, they all call by the idol name. Yuzuki Sasaki just likes eating lunch while chatting on the phone. Likes watching okonomiyaki cook on the griddle. Likes being helped with subjects that don't click in class. Likes grabbing snacks after school. Likes the time spent at home together. Tried to make Suzufumi flustered with the swimsuit, but got flustered too. Hates pretending not to know each other at school. Likes the pork bowl made as a gift. And if not an idol, could what comes next even be said? Suzufumi sits on the bench alone. The phone rings again. Suzufumi looks up and mutters, so dazzling. For the first time ever, Suzufumi skipped class. At 7 p.m., Yuzuki takes the stage and calls out to the crowd. The venue erupts. Normal high school students don't pack out concert halls. They don't sing, dance, or blow kisses to thousands. Suzufumi watches from home, thinking, their paths crossing was just a lucky accident. Yuzuki lives in a completely different world. On stage, Yuzuki thinks, if not an idol, Yuzuki wouldn't have pushed so hard with food and wouldn't have collapsed at home. Suzufumi wouldn't have found Yuzuki. And Suzufumi wouldn't have fallen for Yuzuki either. They wouldn't have become close neighbors. But it's because Yuzuki chased perfection as an idol that the pork bowl got made, and Yuzuki resisted, and that's how they connected. The crowd roars. Yuzuki performs under the spotlight, eyes glistening. For just a second, Suzufumi thinks Yuzuki's expression wavered, like something was weighing on Yuzuki's heart. Then dismisses it, maybe just imagination. It left a strange feeling either way. Suzufumi thinks, Yuzuki is amazing. Then immediately wonders if that's imagined too. The urge to message the moment Yuzuki gets home, to say everything right away, but texting would turn into an embarrassing wall of words. Stuff like this is better said out loud. First thing tomorrow morning. Suzufumi stands outside the apartment building. From that day on, Yuzuki never came home. Something must have happened. Mailbox 810 is stuffed full of flyers. Suzufumi stares at it silently. A neighbor greets Suzufumi and hands over a gift, a lottery prize from the shopping district, something expensive looking. The neighbor won it on the second try but can't eat greasy food, so asks Suzufumi to share it with family and friends. Suzufumi accepts and thanks the neighbor, then rings the doorbell next door. Suzufumi stares at Yuzuki's door. The person to give this to is never home. It's been 5 days since Yuzuki last came back. Maybe Yuzuki came back secretly while Suzufumi was in class. The Yuzuki that appears on stage won't show up here. Yuzuki keeps posting on social media and appearing on internet live broadcasts. Messages get no reply. Calls don't go through either. No news of any trouble or accidents. The only conclusion Suzufumi can reach: Yuzuki is avoiding Suzufumi. If this keeps up, the relationship will just fade out. Suzufumi thinks what's needed is to meet Yuzuki Sasaki directly. Then a voice calls out, "Finally here. You're late, Suzu." It's Rika. Suzufumi greets Rika flatly. Rika notices something is off and asks if the energy is too low. Rika mentions coming to pick Suzufumi up because messages weren't getting answered. Suzufumi apologizes and says it's nothing. Sorry for making Rika worry. Rika asks if everything is really okay. Suzufumi tells Rika to mind her own business, but then asks if midterm studying is going okay. Rika is especially clingy today. Suzufumi says if anything happens, it'll be taken care of. Rika says then it's fine, but threatens to come barging in if lied to. Suzufumi thinks making a childhood friend worry like this is disappointing. Suzufumi heads to Class 1B. A student with glasses at the door asks what business there is in the first-year classroom. The student says Yuzuki hasn't come today. The past few days it's been late arrivals or early departures. Suzufumi recognizes the student, Mamori Senpai, the one who confessed to Yuzuki at the entrance ceremony. Mamori Senpai says it looks like Yuzuki is avoiding Suzufumi. Suzufumi asks what that means. Mamori Senpai explains that lately Yuzuki has been asking them to check that no guys come in before entering class, acting extra vigilant about someone. Mamori Senpai asks if Suzufumi is trying to approach Yuzuki again and warns that anything out of line will be reported to the teachers. Suzufumi says it's understood and won't come back to Class 1B. Thanks Mamori Senpai for the warning. Back in class, a school announcement comes on asking Suzufumi to report to the student guidance room during lunch. A classmate immediately jokes that it's Suzufumi's turn to get called in by Momo. Suzufumi already knows this is definitely about going to Class 1B earlier. Suzufumi walks into the student guidance room. The current situation feels like being a complete stranger to Yuzuki. A teacher is already waiting inside and tells Suzufumi to sit down. There's something to talk about. Suzufumi thinks it's over. The teacher starts to say something about Yuzuki, then adds that since Suzufumi clearly won't admit it. The teacher lights up completely and asks if Yuzuki's live was the best. Suzufumi is stunned. The teacher goes on. 3 solo performances. The Sekijutsu Twilight solo was unexpected. The song selection this time was larger than usual, and the pre- and post-live streams were great too. The teacher keeps going. The fan meet is coming up soon, and the plan is to make Yuzuki rest, but also worries about Yuzuki's health with all the activity. Suzufumi cuts in and asks why exactly the call to the guidance room was made. The teacher says there's something else, and asks Suzufumi's thoughts on the live first. Suzufumi asks if that's really what the meeting is about. The teacher holds up a Spotlight's fan club card, member number 000005. As fan club member no. 5. Treating new fans well matters because if newer members aren't welcomed, the club dies out. Then the teacher notices Suzufumi's lunch. The teacher snaps, eating openly in front of the teacher, and adds that it's been nothing but grass and beans for 3 days. The teacher explains the past few days. Last night was fried beans and bean sprouts with 5 cans of energy drink. This morning was cold tofu and natto, and lunch was bean snacks from a colleague. Nearly at the limit. Suzufumi stares. The teacher's eyes lock onto the lunch. Suzufumi asks if some is wanted. The teacher says no, hasn't fallen that low. Then immediately asks if Suzufumi is sure there's one more. Suzufumi confirms it was made by accident. The teacher stares hard. Suzufumi explains, originally wanted to give it to Yuzuki if they met at school. That turned out to be impossible. Today's lunch is sandwiches. The teacher reacts with full excitement. The sandwiches use extravagant pork cutlet instead of the usual fillings. There's also a fruit sandwich with cream, strawberries, kiwi, and banana. The teacher digs in immediately. Suzufumi goes quiet and just holds out the drink, potato shochu on the rocks. The teacher asks if it pairs well with sandwiches and suggests red wine or white wine. Suzufumi points out this is a school guidance room, not an izakaya. The teacher gets excited about a live stream event and starts chanting for beer. Suzufumi tries to get things back on track. The teacher eats the fruit sandwich and raves. The rich cream goes perfectly with the banana sweetness and the strawberry and kiwi balance. The bread is soft and easy to chew. Then takes a drink from a thermos. The teacher goes quiet. Suzufumi asks if the thermos is actually tea. The teacher confirms it is. Then starts talking about how cream pairs unexpectedly well with cold sake, and the feeling is like dipping into a bath after a sauna. Suzufumi asks why the sudden talkativeness, and points out the face is going red. The teacher insists it's nothing, then calls out eating in front of a student as a failure. The teacher slumps down and mutters something affectionate about Yuzuki-chan. Suzufumi watches and wonders if alcohol was actually consumed. Then the teacher asks out of nowhere, "Am I cute?" Suzufumi responds with yes. The teacher immediately declares being the cutest in school. Suzufumi is thrown off. That was supposed to be a question, but it became a self-declaration. The teacher adds, was also a rising idol back then. Got pampered, desires for approval were fulfilled, and money was made. Suzufumi thinks the motive is questionable. The teacher's parents were both teachers, so they wanted their child to follow the same path. They called being an idol just playing around, and there was a big fight. Despite the opposition, the teacher convinced them with full sincerity, on the condition of only pursuing it until high school graduation. Weekdays were for sending demos, weekends for attending auditions. Studying also had to happen, so nights were spent awake. Suzufumi thinks, people need a strong sense of hope to start something. Even starting to cook came from hoping the father would get better. The teacher finally got into a first audition in third year of high school. It was a 3-day, 2-night training camp. Suzufumi asks what was realized during it. The teacher explains, the resolve was different compared to the others. They balanced studying and part-time work, attended other idols' concerts, read books on improving conversation skills, went to social events to network. The teacher was the only one who slept more than 4 hours. The others risked their health to become idols. At Yuzuki's apartment, sounds could always be heard from next door late at night, not just from irregular hours, but from working out while memorizing scripts. After realizing how different that dedication was, the teacher concluded, it's impossible for me. In the end, the final audition was failed. There were days of wanting to sleep in, wanting to go out and have fun. The resolve just wasn't enough. That's exactly why Arisu Yuzuki is admired. No matter how small the venue, Yuzuki performed at full effort. The teacher is in love with that dedication. Suzufumi knows exactly how committed Yuzuki is to perfection. After hearing a story from someone who once aimed to be an idol, the weight of that word lands differently. That's also why the last live felt surprising. It was rare for Yuzuki to make a mistake. During Yuzuki's debut song, Spotlight, a mistake was made on stage. It was fixed right away and the camera cut, so most people probably didn't notice. The teacher knew because of being fan club member 000005. Making a mistake live was, as far as the teacher knows, a first. Suzufumi goes still and quiet. Arisu Yuzuki stands with Mamori's thoughts, noting that Yuzuki's dedication sets Yuzuki apart from other idols. Mamori now knows that what happened between them wasn't one-sided. But when Mamori got home, the building owner was waiting in front of room 810. Yuzuki had requested to move out. Arisu Yuzuki performs on stage, a famous idol, always perfect, never missing a beat. Mamori sits at home thinking about Yuzuki's performances. Yuzuki always knows what expression fits each moment. To keep up with Yuzuki's activities, Mamori has been losing sleep for days. A voice calls out, Mamori-kun. A classmate wakes Mamori up in class. Mamori had fallen asleep at the desk. Another classmate points out Mamori was clearly sleeping and suggests washing up. Mamori yawns and staggers out. Room 810 is empty now. No one lives there anymore. Mamori washes up in the bathroom, thinking there's no point chasing after idol Arisu Yuzuki. Mamori then hears someone call out the name Yuzuki and runs toward the sound. All the way to the shoe lockers, arriving out of breath to find Yuzuki crouched there. Mamori confronts Yuzuki at the lockers. Yuzuki disappeared without warning. No calls answered, no messages replied to, even moved out. Mamori says it's all too sudden. Mamori thinks, just seeing Yuzuki was enough. There was never any plan to chase further. But why did it have to be like this? Yuzuki stays silent. Yuzuki apologizes and admits to forgetting to reach out. After the concert, work piled up fast. The apartment was too far from the office, so Yuzuki moved into company housing. During compliance training, Yuzuki was told to stop messaging boys in case chats leaked, so contacting Mamori wasn't possible. Mamori stares, stunned. Mamori says that's not what the question was about. Yuzuki asks if Mamori bought concert tickets, then asks what Mamori thought of the performance. Mamori holds back. The person in front of Mamori right now is Arisu Yuzuki, not Sasaki Yuzuki. Mamori tells Yuzuki that the TV appearances and concerts are all amazing, and that watching them made Mamori fully understand why fans love Yuzuki so much. That's exactly why Mamori had to say this honestly, and then Mamori blurts it out, liking Yuzuki and wanting to keep supporting Yuzuki. Yuzuki wonders quietly if Suzufumi actually has feelings beyond being a fan. Yuzuki smiles and thanks Mamori for the support, then asks Mamori to keep being a fan. Yuzuki excuses herself, mentioning a lunch promise with a friend and needing to change and head back to class. Mamori is left standing there, letting out a hollow laugh. That afternoon, Mamori skips evening classes. Mamori stares at a returned package. Yuzuki has completely cut Mamori off. There's nothing left to do. They're just back to how things were before they ever met. Yuzuki's face flashes in Mamori's mind. asking brightly to be a fan, saying the goal's been accomplished. That's it, isn't it, Yuzuki? Mamori thinks back. Yuzuki smiling and saying let's eat, ordering a huge pile of food without holding back. Mamori wonders if Yuzuki would still act like that without the idol title. No other idol calls out food orders at home like that. They got close because Yuzuki was an idol. And now Mamori can no longer meet Sasaki Yuzuki. Rika shows up at Mamori's place. Mamori is confused. Rika explains that nobody answered no matter how many times the doorbell rang. So Rika got worried. Rika points out that Mamori hasn't eaten dinner and, as the older one, felt responsible for checking in. Rika declares she'll be the one cooking today. The food sticks to the pan right away. Mamori points out that oil or butter was needed beforehand. Things escalate fast, something burns, and Rika starts yelling for Sezu to help. Rika steps back to set the table while Mamori takes over the cooking. Mamori cracks eggs and stirs them in the pan. Mamori sits down with the finished dish. Rika announces plain omurice is done. Mamori tells Rika to eat before saying anything else. The egg will overcook. Mamori takes a bite and thinks the burnt bitterness and salt actually balance out. Rock salt might work even better than ketchup here. Rika says Mamori doesn't have to force anything. Mamori says there's no forcing involved. There's no way Mamori would skip food made by a childhood friend. Rika watches the omurice split open and go soft, then says bon appetit, clearly moved. Both eat. Rika says it's even better than before and calls Mamori amazing. Mamori's memory is fuzzy. Rika mentions the first time Mamori cooked for Rika, it was also omurice. Mamori doesn't really remember. Rika thinks, for Mamori it might not mean much, but for Rika, meeting Sezu changed everything. Rika admits elementary school was really rough. Severe asthma meant missing PE, missing trips, missing out on everything normal. Rika started skipping school, taking it out on family, and at one point even thought about not wanting to live anymore. Then one day, someone kept ringing the doorbell. Rika had planned to yell at whoever it was, but Sezu came rushing in before Rika could. At first Rika glared and pushed back. They couldn't even talk properly. But Sezu kept coming back, and eventually used Rika's kitchen to cook omurice for two. Sezu also scolded Rika for using fire alone when no adults were home. Rika smiles, saying Sezu always gave Rika the better plate. Rika says there's no way to forget. Sezu gave food to someone like Rika. Sezu didn't leave Rika alone, and those days together saved Rika from completely falling apart. Rika wants to repay that, whether through chores or anything else. Rika laughs and admits to just spinning around idly lately anyway. Rika says that even if it's a bother, Rika wants to be useful to Sezu. Sezu never complains about personal troubles, and no one else would push Sezu from behind, so that role falls to Rika. Rika sits down and asks directly if something happened with Arisu Yuzuki. Mamori admits a lot happened, and that Yuzuki is now avoiding Mamori. Mamori says there was no bad intention, but wonders if being around Yuzuki was just a nuisance all along. Maybe the whole thing was one-sided. Rika doesn't think that's it. Rika then asks what Yuzuki was like when eating Mamori's okonomiyaki. Rika says Arisu Yuzuki was genuinely smiling. No one can fake happiness while eating something that good. Mamori thinks back. Every memory of Yuzuki is full of smiles. Could Yuzuki actually have been happy? That time too, and that one too. Rika points out the Sezu who saved Rika back then. Sezu didn't care what others thought, kept showing up even when Rika pushed back. Rika asks how Yuzuki looked to Mamori. Mamori thinks, Yuzuki is a perfectionist, always keeping up image, avoiding scandals, staying in idle mode constantly. Mamori thinks Yuzuki's decision isn't wrong. If Yuzuki chose it on Yuzuki's own, it's not Mamori's place to get in the way. Rika says Mamori already knows what Mamori actually wants. Mamori thinks the right answer is to respect Yuzuki's wishes and stay away. But Mamori isn't a passive fan. That's not who Mamori is. Mamori wants to let Yuzuki eat Mamori's cooking again. The smile Yuzuki had eating that pork bowl, that wasn't an idle smile. Yuzuki, as Mamori knows, is easily flustered and shows every emotion clearly. Idle mode keeps Yuzuki from eating what Yuzuki actually loves. Mamori wants to make Yuzuki happy with food. Mamori wonders if Yuzuki ever truly accepted the food without holding back. The harder Yuzuki pushes away, the more clearly the real feelings show. That's just how Yuzuki is. Mamori thanks Rika and says it helps having Rika as both a childhood friend and a reliable older sister. Rika grins and tells Mamori to rely on Rika more. Mamori makes up Mamori's mind to draw out the real Yuzuki in Mamori's own way. Mamori tells Yuzuki to wait. Meanwhile, Yuzuki stands there thinking, Mamori is such a tease, always trying to get Yuzuki to eat. Yuzuki thinks back. Because Mamori made good food every day, Yuzuki started looking forward to going home. Mamori diligently tried to take care of Yuzuki. Even after saying Mamori wouldn't become a fan, Mamori still faked a confession to protect Yuzuki's idol reputation that one night. Yuzuki recalls more. Mamori helped with lessons at Mamori's place, even going up against Rika, who was a senpai and childhood friend. Things moved fast after Yuzuki noticed the feelings. After school they bought snacks together, and on the way home, even when someone might spot them, Yuzuki didn't want to walk away. The more time spent with Mamori, the more Sasaki Yuzuki came through beneath the Arisu Yuzuki surface. Yuzuki recalls more. Competing with Rika, studying at Mamori's place, going to buy snacks after school. Every moment with Mamori revealed more of Sasaki Yuzuki beneath Arisu Yuzuki's surface. Even on the way home, when being seen together felt risky, Yuzuki didn't want to leave Mamori's side. Yuzuki wants to understand Mamori better, wants to get closer. But unless Mamori is completely erased from Yuzuki's heart, Yuzuki can't keep going as Arisu Yuzuki. That's what caused the slip during the live show. Yuzuki hates Sasaki Yuzuki. Fans cheer for Arisu Yuzuki, the perfect idol, and that's who Yuzuki has to be. At practice, Yuzuki keeps messing up and asks to go again. The staff go silent. Yuzuki keeps apologizing and asking for one more try. The staff call a break and say to restart in 10 minutes. Yuzuki insists on trying the step one more time. Yuzuki's feet keep moving. Just once more, one more time, pushing past the break until breathing goes ragged. Yuzuki wonders why. The diet is back on track. Weight is where it should be, condition should be fine. But by the end of the day, not a single move felt right. Yuzuki has no idea what's missing. Yuzuki lies down, staring at the ceiling. Yuzuki wants to run away. Everything possible was already done, giving up time, pushing important people away, locking down real feelings. And still it's not enough. Yuzuki just wants someone to get angry, to blame Yuzuki, to give guidance. The doorbell rings. Yuzuki calls out, asking if it's the manager. Yuzuki opens the door. It's Mamori, hand raised in a casual wave. Yuzuki can't believe it. Mamori says to come along and that an explanation will come later. Yuzuki asks why Mamori is here and tells Mamori to wait. Mamori grabs Yuzuki's hand and pulls Yuzuki into a taxi, telling the driver to head to Orikita residence. In the taxi, Yuzuki asks how Mamori found out where Yuzuki was staying. Mamori explains through a fan who tracks everything obsessively online. Yuzuki points out that no location was shared. Mamori says Yuzuki's own caution doesn't matter if other members aren't as careful, and always staying at the same hotel before fan meets made it easy to piece together from past info. Yuzuki stares, stunned. Anda Burkata, name. Or no Haitoku Meshi o Onedari Sezu ni Irarenai. Otonari no top idol sama. Mamori points out that the elevator needs a key card. Yuzuki wonders how Mamori got in. Mamori admits to having the nerd friend book a room at the same hotel. Apparently Yuzuki's manager probably has no idea and spends evenings looking forward to the fan meet. Mamori tells Yuzuki to add internet literacy to the next debrief agenda. Yuzuki just stares, confused. Mamori mentions the hardcore fan is the type who prefers keeping distance from idols anyway, so no real risk there. They arrive at the hotel room. Yuzuki pouts. Mamori tells Yuzuki to sit. Mamori settles in and says, "All right then." Yuzuki asks if Mamori is seriously going to cook. Mamori says that's the only reason Yuzuki would ever let Mamori into the room. Yuzuki tries to protest. There's still practice to get back to. Mamori is already at work. Pork belly, cut into 5-centimeter strips, dropped into boiling water. Mamori explains that boiling the pork first removes excess fat, making it lighter. Next, sesame oil goes into a preheated pan with ginger and garlic paste. Once the aroma comes up, sliced green onions get tossed in for a quick sauté. Yuzuki quietly watches from the doorway. When the green onions soften, Mamori adds the boiled pork and stirs everything together. Soy sauce, mirin, sake, and Chinese seasoning go into the pan together. Once the flavors combine, it's done. The rice was prepared firm, so the sauce soaks in properly. Yuzuki yells to stop. Yuzuki covers the face and asks Mamori to please stop. Yuzuki asks why Mamori is so kind. How Mamori even knew Yuzuki was hurting. Why Mamori is doing all this. Yuzuki says if Mamori had just been disappointed, everything would have gone back to how it was before. Tears fall to the floor. Mamori says nothing and just stands there. Mamori says Yuzuki has always been amazing. Mamori has been watching the real Yuzuki the whole time. Idols are human too. They get hungry, they dig into food. Idols carry everyone's hopes and dreams and fill themselves with those ideals. That's what makes an idol. Mamori asks if Yuzuki is included in that everyone. Yuzuki says the real Sasaki Yuzuki is just a nuisance. Yuzuki's whole life is for becoming an idol for everyone else. Mamori says it's not good for idols to throw away everything personal and live only for fans. Yuzuki stares, stunned. Mamori says that would be too sad. What matters is also accepting personal desires, and then, in front of fans, continuing to be an idol anyway. Some might call it a lie or a false image, but Mamori doesn't think that's wrong. Yuzuki thinks an idol is a lie, a false image, and yet that's exactly why it's beautiful. Those lies are just wishes in another form. Mamori tells Yuzuki it's okay to want food, even eating a pork bowl, adding extra cheese, asking for more galette, flopping down after gyro ramen, or trying the fabachiki after school. Mamori says after all that, Yuzuki should still stay true to Yuzuki and remain a symbol of admiration for fans. The bigger the desire grows, the more Mamori will hold it steady. Yuzuki shines on stage. Mamori says Yuzuki shining on stage is something Mamori loves, and loving Yuzuki for working tirelessly toward that every day even more so. At minimum, Mamori cares about Sasaki Yuzuki, the one Yuzuki tried to erase. Yuzuki starts to cry, trying to say something but barely able to get it out. Yuzuki says the goal is to be the ideal idol, but there's not enough time or skill yet. To get even slightly closer, Yuzuki has no choice but to keep holding back. All Yuzuki can do is push to the limit. Mamori holds out a piece of pork and says Yuzuki isn't a robot, just a normal person. Mamori adds that Yuzuki should love Yuzuki a little more. After all, Yuzuki is just Mamori's neighbor. The Fabuchiki Don sits on the table, a big, heavy rice bowl. Mamori tells Yuzuki this is what Yuzuki said was wanted. Mamori asks if Yuzuki is hungry. Yuzuki wipes tears away and clutches both hands together, remembering saying the calories looked insane but wanting to try it anyway. Yuzuki says no, not hungry. Mamori shrugs and says the freshly made combo bowl of platinum pork and homemade Fabuchiki will just go in the fridge then. If reheated, the crispy coating and perfectly cooked rice will both lose quality, and Mamori wants to avoid that. Yuzuki says that has nothing to do with Yuzuki. Mamori points out there's someone else in the room, which is fortunate. If that person takes it, Mamori would feel truly fulfilled as a chef, and the hunger would be satisfied too. 2 birds, 1 stone. Yuzuki's stomach growls. Mamori starts to say that's why. Mamori asks what Yuzuki will do. Tomorrow's the fan meet, the real deal. Yuzuki stares, clearly wavering. Mamori says Yuzuki must restore energy for that. Yuzuki protests it's the middle of the night and all meat and grease. That would cause a stomachache. Mamori says Yuzuki doesn't have a stomach that fragile and offers to just eat it alone then. Yuzuki lets out a frustrated cry. Yuzuki grabs for the bowl. Mamori pulls back. They tug at it together. Mamori asks what's the matter. Yuzuki quietly says, taking it. Yuzuki sits alone with the bowl. Mamori says Yuzuki won't need to talk about discarding the real self anymore. What Yuzuki is aiming for is the very top, so effort alone won't be enough. Not just for the fans, but after fully satisfying personal desires too, Yuzuki will become the ideal idol and show everyone. Yuzuki will have it all and be the coolest, best idol ever. Mamori smirks and asks if there's something Yuzuki wants to say. Mamori asks what Yuzuki's wish is. Yuzuki barely manages to get out a small sound. Mamori asks again, what's the wish? Yuzuki starts to say something very quietly. Mamori says to speak up, can't hear it. Yuzuki looks up with teary eyes, holding the bowl, and finally says it clearly. Please let Yuzuki eat Mamori's cooked food, no holding back. Yuzuki holds the bowl and says thanks for the meal. Mamori stands nearby, flustered. The title reads, let's eat. Thanks for the meal. Mamori thinks, meal seduction complete. Yuzuki finally asked on Yuzuki's own. Mamori grins and says it can't be helped, and offers to feed Yuzuki since Yuzuki went that far. Yuzuki grabs the chopsticks and asks what that means. Yuzuki sits on the floor and asks to be fed. Mamori freezes up. Yuzuki gets close and points out that Mamori did say to feed Yuzuki. Mamori panics. Yuzuki asks if Mamori is going to feed Yuzuki or not. Mamori gives in and tells Yuzuki to at least close both eyes. Yuzuki closes both eyes. Mamori thinks this feels way too much like a wedding moment. Mamori picks up a piece with the chopsticks and says here it comes. Mamori tells Yuzuki to say ah. Yuzuki opens wide and says ah. Yuzuki chews slowly, clearly happy. Mamori watches, a little overwhelmed. Mamori asks how it is. Yuzuki asks for the next piece and whether Mamori will keep feeding to the end. Mamori tells Yuzuki to be quiet and slides the chopsticks over. Yuzuki opens wide again, satisfied. Yuzuki thinks. The sauce wraps around the pork belly and melts the moment it hits the tongue. Rolling it over the rice brings out even more sweetness. The green onion aroma is incredible. The meat turns mellow with the egg coat. It has a sukiyaki quality. One bowl of rice is nowhere near enough. Then comes the crispy chicken. Yuzuki reacts with full excitement. The texture is light. The bite is satisfying. The salty sauce, lemon, and black pepper balance perfectly. The sesame and shiso aroma is refreshing. It's fried, but not heavy. Both flavors work together perfectly. Yuzuki finishes and thanks Mamori for the meal. Mamori says Mamori really does prefer this side of Yuzuki. Yuzuki quietly squeezes Mamori's hand. Yuzuki says thanks for everything. Mamori says it's fine. They're close, right? From now on, Yuzuki wants to keep showing the ideal self as an idol, and wants to hold Yuzuki's head high knowing that Sasaki Yuzuki is inside Arisa Yuzuki. Yuzuki says to reach the top, everything has to go into it. Time, energy, youth. But this time, Yuzuki won't neglect Yuzuki's own self. Yuzuki asks Mamori to keep meddling from now on, and if Yuzuki ever starts drifting, to pull Yuzuki back and remind Yuzuki that this version can stay too. Mamori says to leave it to Mamori. Mamori promises to always be Sasaki Yuzuki's #1 ally, and to keep making Yuzuki fall for the cooking again and again. Yuzuki thanks Mamori and jumps up. Dinner is done. Time to head back and go over choreography before bed. Mamori decides not to see Yuzuki all the way downstairs. Yuzuki says Mamori should see Yuzuki off here. This is where Sasaki Yuzuki belongs. Mamori says to go knock them dead. Yuzuki gives Mamori a high five and heads out. The scene cuts to late May. Mamori gets pulled into a conversation. Someone from the front row says Yuzuki looked amazing at the fan meet. The person says Yuzuki was way too cute for words like angel or goddess, more like a myth, a scripture, an entire era. Mamori just says noted. The talk corner theme was most memorable dish, and Yuzuki's answer was a hint, saying it's Yuzuki's favorite food. Someone guesses pork bowl. Another says no way Yuzuki would pick something that simple. The answer, galette. Apparently a friend made one recently. It was so good that Yuzuki said no galette anywhere else would ever compare. Mamori quietly takes that in. The person mentions it's been 5 straight days of being called out to talk about the fan meet. Mamori finds it exhausting. Then, oh, and about the mini live. The person, fan club member number 5, says with full confidence it was the best performance ever. Mamori asks how many songs there were. The person says 6, it's a mini live, but could talk 5 hours per song. Mamori works out that's 30 hours minimum and asks for a 1-minute summary. The person says the last live had some shaky moments, but this time Yuzuki was just perfect. Mamori says that's what the person always says. The person shakes the head. No, this time Yuzuki looked genuinely happy, like a completely different person. The person says it almost brought tears, denying actually crying. Yuzuki wasn't faking smiles, it was real enjoyment. The person says Yuzuki will face all kinds of hardships ahead, but believes Yuzuki can handle them. A fan's job is to quietly watch and support. Mamori thinks. Still, Mamori can't help wanting to be the one supporting Yuzuki up close. Mamori excuses himself and heads back to class. The door shuts. The person left behind quietly thanks Mamori Cohen. Time skip to early June. Mamori tries to get a friend to study for midterms in the library. The friend says there's a date to get to and heads home. Mamori tells the friend not to come crying during finals. The friend says Mamori seemed down before, but looks cheerful again. Mamori asks if something good is about to happen. The friend says it's about to. See you next week. Mamori is left puzzled. Then Rika appears around the corner and calls out to Sezu. Rika catches up to Mamori after school and suggests walking home together. Rika admits to waiting. Mamori asks if Rika is working again. Rika says there's a need to earn before summer break, then announces plans to come take care of Mamori every single day during summer vacation. Mamori thinks there's no way out of this. Rika asks if there's anything else Mamori wants to do over break. Mamori thinks, then says maybe having another meal with Arisu Yuzuki. Rika finds that unexpected. Mamori admits to barely knowing Yuzuki at all and wanting to actually talk next time. Rika lights up, saying if Mamori wants to keep Rika all to herself, Rika won't force anything. Mamori says that's not it. They reach a crosswalk. Rika just says noted, smiling. Mamori says see you next time and heads off. Time skip, summer. Yuzuki shows up at Mamori's door. Mamori calls out the name in surprise. Mamori says Yuzuki is moving back to the building starting today, having waited for this. Yuzuki confirms it. Mamori says welcome back. Yuzuki says it's good to be back. Mamori mentions a post-fan meeting party for tonight. Yuzuki says that sounds good. Yuzuki stares at the spread and says it's definitely a bit too much. Mamori admits to maybe going overboard. The table is packed with dishes, fried items, sliced pork, shrimp tempura, and more. Mamori also mentions there's potage, cold shabu, and fruit punch in the fridge. Yuzuki asks if all that is really for just the two of them. Mamori explains the wanna-feed list just kept growing while looking forward to Yuzuki's return. Mamori says Yuzuki can eat it all. Yuzuki points out Mamori never said anything about eating it alone. Both say eh and huh at the same time. Mamori points out that Yuzuki said looking forward to it earlier, and the other night also said this is where Sasaki Yuzuki belongs, so anyone would take that as offering both heart and stomach. Yuzuki goes pale. Mamori says that basically sounds like a proposal. Yuzuki goes red and protests. That day was a one-time mistake, and Yuzuki is not food seduced. Yuzuki fires back, asking if Mamori became a fan, yet since Mamori said Yuzuki was wanted on stage. Mamori says that's not relevant right now, the food's going to get cold. Yuzuki points out the stream was fan club exclusive with the archive ending tomorrow. Mamori says it's already covered through the hardcore fan. Yuzuki admits that's not Mamori's fault. Mamori reminds Yuzuki that work gets busy again tomorrow and a new regular show is starting, so this might be the last chance to eat slowly for a while. Mamori points out the wrapped crepes turned out great too, a whole batch was made. Yuzuki makes a pained noise, resisting. Mamori shrugs and says if Yuzuki really won't eat, Mamori will just have a lonely little wrap-up party alone. Yuzuki caves and yells fine, declaring eating is happening. Both put their hands together and say let's dig in. Yuzuki eats happily, making satisfied sounds. Mamori watches, feeling warm inside. Mamori wants to stay closest to Yuzuki and become Yuzuki's number one. Yuzuki suddenly stops and looks sideways, pointing out that Mamori did say everything could be eaten. A close-up of Yuzuki looking sideways with a slight smirk, one eye half open. Mamori freezes up. Yuzuki licks something off and calmly says thanks for the meal. Mamori asks what that just was. Yuzuki snaps back to normal, covers the face, and insists it was just thanks for the meal. Mamori laughs nervously, saying that was close and almost fell right into Yuzuki's trap, and accuses Yuzuki of planning all this to make Mamori a fan. Yuzuki calls Mamori an idiot, then glares. Mamori fumbles. Yuzuki announces a decision, making Mamori the top fan. Yuzuki says just being a fan was too small a goal. From now on, it's going all out. Everything before will look gentle in comparison. Mamori counters that Yuzuki will completely fall for the cooking instead. Yuzuki declares the goal is to make Mamori the kind of top fan that can be shown off anywhere. Mamori fires back, not just 3 meals a day, but snacks, afternoon tea, midnight bites, everything. Yuzuki won't escape the menu as long as Mamori is next door. Yuzuki grins and says bring it on. Yuzuki looks straight ahead, smiling, and declares there's no way of ever falling for Suzufumi's sinful cooking. The narration says the love and meal battle now moves to a new stage. End.